All right, guys. Today we're talking ships yet again, and today this is mostly about the Drake Cutlass Blue and the Zeus Mark II MR. But I did invite the Sentinel, the Antares, the Mantis, and the Hawk into the fold because they all have some of the capabilities and different capabilities than what these two ships have, and why these two ships are better than the rest of these ships seemingly, and why I chose the MR over all of them. And that is because simply the MR can do most of the capabilities that all of these ships have. Now, neither the Mark II MR nor the Cutlass Blue have the ability to snare, meaning to pull somebody out of quantum, right? They can't do that, but they can do a whole lot of other things. And in my opinion, they are better than most of the other ships that are out here right now. So we're gonna start with the Cutlass Blue. We all know the Cutlass Blue is a powerhouse. It has incredible top speed. Those engines are phenomenal, and the four size threes for the pilot. The turret has two size threes as well, and we can't forget that it has six missile racks. So the Cutlass Blue is a powerhouse, straight up. You can't go wrong with this ship. One of the things that I don't like about the Cutlass Blue, at least how it is in game, it doesn't look how it was supposed to be intended. In my opinion, it has a lot of components everywhere in the middle. It doesn't make the best use of its interior space, which I think that is something that needs to be reworked. And that could possibly make the ship even better because if they can make better use of the interior space, maybe they can get some of the SCU back, some of that cargo space, and it can really compete with the MR because that is what the MR has over this one, and the MR also has the use of the EMP. But we're still talking about the blue. So we know we can put the 48 size 1 missiles on it. The engines are great, the shields are great. The vulnerabilities of the of the blue are the wings, right? These can be shot off and the engines can be shot off. But I think that's perfect in terms of the game balance because we know that the the Drake Cutlass Blue only has the front and rear shields, so that's perfect, right? I think that's great. If we compare the size of these two, we can see that the MR is the overall bigger ship. It's going to have the bigger footprint, which means it's going to be easier to hit in terms of like combat and stuff like that. Like I said, the blue does have its vulnerabilities, but they're different vulnerabilities, right? So your overall footprint is larger. However, you're not really at risk of like losing like an engine or like a wing. I'm pretty sure these wings can also be shot off, but I don't think it'll be as detrimental as a Cutlass losing an engine or one of its front wings because if the Cutlass loses a front wing or an engine, like you're gonna lose a gun if one of these gets shots off, and the MR is essentially not gonna have that problem. So in terms of like balance, I think that the Drake Cutlass Blue needs to retain what makes it special, that high top speed and that crazy firepower that it has. The MR is a little bit more sophisticated, so it makes better use of its interior space, which I have right here. We can see, and I've already gone over this. It just makes better use of its interior space. If this image is to be believed, we all know how CIG is. They like to change things, and I think they've already changed some things of making this interior space a little bit more usable. And one of the benefits that this thing has are the prisoner transport pods. And maybe these things could be an item that anybody could get and they can put on their ship that can hold cargo. But the fact that this ship comes with them and you have two, that's great. And it also has enough room here for 16 SU of storage. You can also probably put a vehicle back here, but I don't know why you would. Or maybe you can get an Ursa, something back here to help with the prisoner transport, right? So going back to our fleet view, let's talk balance in terms of the MR and the Cutlass Blue. And now this is me putting on my hopium mask. I gotta huff the hopium because I don't want another FHC debacle where people it comes out and people are saying that it's too overpowered. We all know that the Mark II MR is going to have superior shielding. Does that mean it will get bubble shields? In my opinion, I hope not. Because I just strongly think that because it's a combat ship and because of its footprint, that it should pay for that. Meaning it should only have front and rear shields, and I should pay for the size of my ship. I should technically be a little bit easier to hit. That's just me. Okay. I'm not saying that anybody else should feel this way. This is not what I'm getting at. And I'm not saying that CIG absolutely has to do this, because they're going to do what they feel is best for the game. I'm just a guy on YouTube talking about fictional ships in a video game. Okay. So one of the things that I do think, though, I do think that it should maneuver a little bit better. It's easier to hit, but it does turn a little bit faster, and maybe it flies a little bit better in atmosphere compared to the Cutlass Blue. That's just my opinion on it, right? So what about the other ships? We all know that the Sentinel has the EMP. We know the Hawk has the EMP. We know that this has, a quantum dampener and a snare, and we know that this ship has a EMP and a quantum dampener as well. So in my opinion, the MR is a mix of this and this. And they just took these ships. So like, what if we just took an Antares and a Mantis and we just made one big ship? And that's essentially what they've done. They just taken these two ships, combined them, stuck them together, and made one big ship. I think the design of the MR, like I said, is great. It's a little bit more sophisticated. It makes great use of that interior space. And one of the things that I also think that could help balance the MR with these other ships, especially with the engineering gameplay and the components coming online, is maybe that the MR is a little bit more expensive to maintain over a Cutlass. So if you're looking at the ship maintenance, maybe it's like, okay, well, the MR is a little bit better, and it has a little bit more components, but those components are more expensive to maintain. The Cutlass is cheaper, it's easier to maintain. I don't have to worry about my components are needing a lot from me or needing a lot of demand. So that could be a thing. I think another way they could potentially balance this one is adding, because they were talking about batteries for bigger ships. I think, this is just me, again, guys, this is just me. I think they should add batteries to the MR, because I don't think the ship should have enough power for the EMP and the quantum dampener. So I just think that's a fair way to balance it. Well, you would say, well, this one has that. Well, this is a much smaller ship, so it doesn't really need to have like extra power because it's a fighter. But this is a ship with interior, you know what I mean? And it has all of these electrical components on it. So my hopium mask is still on, guys. So this is kind of like my hopium wish list for the balance of the MR. Front and rear shields only. Slower top speed. It doesn't have to be much slower. It just can't be as fast, or maybe it could be as fast but have slower acceleration because it has smaller engines, right? But I think it should be able to turn a little bit better. Like I said, the front and rear shields, and I think batteries are a good way in the future when that system fully comes online to balance this ship with the Cutlass Blue and to balance with the rest of these, because I just really think that this ship's going to come out and it's going to be maybe a little bit OP. But I think if they do it like this, it's a good way to balance the ship with some of these other ones, and it gives you a use case for these other ships. Be like, well, I could use the MR, but it takes batteries, the components are expensive, and it's a lot to maintain. So maybe I will go ahead and get that Cutlass Blue, which I have no issues with. I like the Cutlass Blue, man. It's a great ship. It's a great ship. I think the Antares is kind of trash, because the Antares, at least right now, the Copilot has the quantum damper and the EMP, but you really can't see that well around you, like even in third person. You know what I mean? So the Mantis is great because it does have that snare capability to pull people out of quantum. And we all know the Hawk is a little beast, and we know the Sentinel is also a beast as well. But this is going to conclude my video on these ships. This really wasn't like for me to compare one ship versus the next. I was just kind of just giving my thoughts on the MR and the Cutlass Blue in terms of like their balance. But I do still think, guys, this is just my opinion, I still think the Cutlass Blue is marginally better than the MR. But it's close, and it should be, because that makes people think, and it makes people consider their decisions. And I know some people in the comments will be like, I have both, and that's great. But having both is not a reality that most people can afford. So I hope this video was insightful, and if it was, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.